got to learn working this new mic. We will now have the superintendent's report and take action as necessary.
Ms. Hammond, thank you so much. First this evening, we have an exciting video that Ms. Goggins is going to come forward, and this is an annual tradition of School District 5, and since we are operating in a different model these days due to our COVID operations, we have taken the same idea from examples of previous years to celebrate via video this evening. Ms. Goggins.
Thank you, Dr. Melton. Each year, the district's FFA, formerly known as the Future Farmers of America, at the Center for Advanced Technical Studies, showcase student agricultural talents and skills through the presentation of poinsettias to the school board. At this time, we will play a video that details our students' talents and tonight's presentation.
I'm Luke Barnhill, a senior in the agricultural program at the Center for Advanced Technical Studies. Last year, I was a completer of the Agricultural and Biosystems program. In August, we received poinsettia cuttings, which we planted in August before the school year started. The plant science class takes care of the poinsettias during their class, which gives a great experience through fertilizing, watering, cutting, and spacing them out, which teaches plant science and greenhouse production.
I am Lauren Landis, and I am also a senior in the environmental pathway at the center. Last year, I was a completer of the veterinary science pathway. Students at the center gain so many valuable skills, not only in career skills, but also personal and professional skills. We thank you, LR5 board and administrators, for supporting programs like ours through equipment and facilities that give us a hands-on approach to education. All students leave the center equipped with skills needed to succeed in life. Many pursue their higher degrees and careers in corresponding fields. Without your support, I know I would not be the student that I am today. I am proud to be in LR5, and once again, thank you for all your support. Please accept this poinsettia as a token of our appreciation for all of your support.
So, Chairman Hammond, the poinsettias here in front of the board configuration are for you all to take home this evening. Congratulations to our students for their skills and their skill set to make sure that they've had the preparation and for this presentation this evening. I'm going to pause because I got a slight feedback for the quality of everyone's audio. Let me look to see if we can get a little bit of that feedback resolved. We have new equipment that we're using this evening, so thank you all for your patience with us as we try something new. Testing 1, 2. Testing. I think that's better already, I hope. All right, we'll try to forge on. Next this evening under my report, Mr. Richardson, our Chief Finance Officer of Operations, is going to come forward. He has this evening in draft form our comprehensive annual financial report. Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Dr. Melton, members of the board. Tonight we have Matthew Hodges, the audit manager with Burkett CPAs, and he's going to discuss our annual financial audit for 2020.
Well, good evening, members of the board. Thank you very much for your time. Again, my name is Matthew Hodges. I'm here to present the results, the draft results of the audit for fiscal year 2020. Just a brief introduction to our team. Our audit partner is Larry Montague, and again, I'm Matthew Hodges, and our audit staff in charge of procurement audit is Zach Buchanan. We want to express our thanks to your finance team for all of their assistance throughout the audit in helping us get the comprehensive annual financial report together. As I stated, the report is currently in a draft status. That's due to the fact that we are awaiting a final report from the Office of Management and Budget regarding COVID-19 funding that the district received and spent during fiscal year 2020. That is anticipated to be released at any day now, and the State Department has delayed the deadline for submitting your report to the State Department of Education until January 15th. At this point in time, we're not aware of any changes that will need to be made to the CAFR, so we will present this information to you on this basis. During our audit, we have not had any disagreements with management. We're not aware of any consultations with any other audit firms as a consultation. There were no issues discussed prior to our retention as your independent auditors, and we have not encountered any difficulties in performing our audit and appreciate the full cooperation, again, that we have received from your staff. There have not been any changes in accounting policies during fiscal year 2020. Next year, for the fiscal year 2021 CAFR, we do anticipate a change. That was originally slated to be released this year, but again, due to COVID-19, that has been deferred by the State Department of Education by 1 year, which will convert your fiduciary funds, pupil activity funds, from a fiduciary fund to special revenues. So our audit was designed based on our knowledge of the district. We have used our professional judgment in making sample selections. Those are designed to achieve reasonable but not absolute assurance on your financial statements. That being said, we have not identified any instances of noncompliance with district policies. Again, at this point, we anticipate issuing 4 clean opinions in relation to your financial statements as well as the procurement. First, the unmodified or clean opinion related to the financial statements themselves. Again, we have not identified any deficiencies in internal controls over preparing those financial statements. The third, again, relates to your federal awards and compliance with those, as well as, lastly, the district's compliance with your procurement policies. The district continues to be in excellent shape due to your leadership and foresight. Again, the district has received high-quality ratings on your bonds, both from Standard & Poor's as well as Moody's. And the district has received for 17 consecutive years the Certificates of Excellence in Financial Reporting on your CAFR report from both ASBO and GFOA. So the district is certainly to be commended for that. Just a little bit about the growth of the district. During fiscal year 2020, there was an increase in student population of 77 students, and the property value grew by 5.2% during fiscal year 2020 within the district. Looking at the general fund balance, that increased by about $6 million during fiscal year 2020. Revenues compared to the prior year increased about $8.3 million. You see the breakdown mostly is due to increase for teacher salary increases from the state, as well as fringe benefits. There was a $1.8 million increase in local property taxes as well. The expenditures increased about $3.3 million. $5 million of that was due to instructional salary increases, as well as insurance and retirement premiums. That was partially offset by fewer capital outlays funded by the general fund. So the general fund balance as of June 30 was $46.5 million. The unassigned portion of that was $43.3 million. The district's policy is that between 15 and 18% at a minimum be held in unassigned general fund balance, and so you met that with a 22% balance. Total governmental fund balances were $89.1 million as of June 30. So I will be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
So Ms. Hammond, we'll pause for any questions because we want to make sure that we're specific to this report with any questions. And of course, Mr. Richardson's available should he be needed at the microphone as well.
Okay. I would entertain any questions. Mr. Lovelace.
I hope you can hear me. Item number 3, it says we reviewed minority business enterprise utilization annual plans to determine if they were submitted to and approved by the Board of Trustees timely. I've been on the board this is the 3rd year. When was that submitted to the board for approval? Do you know?
Is that a part of the procurement audit report?
It's item number 3 on the first page, 2 of 2.
Mr. Lovelace, we present that to the board, and matter of fact, it's in your packet for tonight for the last fiscal year. typically around December, we give it to the board.
Okay, so that was presented to us, and what were the goals in there? Because I don't see, it says that we met our goals and so forth, but what were they?
That would be set in district policy. Yeah. The goals are in district policy related to your procurement. I don't specifically know those goals tonight, but if that's something you'd like for me to look up, I can get that information.
I just looked at, just roughly, but we had $1.2 million and we expended approximately $196 million. And so that was less than a 0.6% or about a 0.6% minority participation. And if you take that as a percentage of everything but salaries, then it's about 5.4%. And I was trying to figure out, with a district like ours that has, a significant minority population, and not just minorities, but I mean, we're talking about disadvantaged businesses and woman-owned business enterprises and so forth. And I was just trying to figure out what our goals are and how did we determine that we met those, if at all, if we did. So,
I'm not sure what the goal is. I mean, I'd have to go look, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. I'm sure he'll get that to us.
yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Lovelace. Are there other questions?
Ms. Hammond? Yes. Can I ask some questions about the procurement audit as well? Item number 8 said we reviewed 100% of unauthorized procurement for the period. What is unauthorized procurement?
I apologize. I was not directly, I did not directly oversee the procurement audit itself. But I'm not sure if you're able to speak to that.
Typically, what you see there is when you have individuals that may, or schools that may go out and do a purchase without doing a purchase order, or maybe put a purchase order on the system once they've gotten an invoice. Those kind of things are what we're talking about, unauthorized purchases.
Okay, so how do you audit to make sure, like, for example, there's, I believe, a $50,000 threshold, and there's certain services that require board approval. How do you make sure when you're doing a procurement audit that any contracts, so this must not be what he was talking about, but how do you make sure that all of the contracts, especially the really large ones, are properly approved? What is your audit technique for that?
So we are given the specific techniques that we have to apply in the procurement audit by the State Department of Education in order to ensure that we have met all of their requirements that are listed in the report. And so there's certainly sampling involved in there in other areas of procurement audit, but we do look at those that you said that are large.
Over $50,000?
Correct.
So would you look at all of them or a portion of them?
All of those.
Okay, and all of those were properly approved?
Yes.
Okay, because I have one right here that was not.
Okay.
And it was $111,000.
Okay.
And I didn't go looking. I just happened to find it.
Okay.
So what do we do?
I mean, if we can, if that's during the fiscal year, okay.
Yes.
I mean, if we can, I believe, again, I believe we looked at 100%, but if you want to get us a copy of that, then we can go back and look at it.
Okay. I mean, I'm just.
Again, I personally did not.
I mean, I'll be just honest. I mean, I'm worried
Sure.
that I happened upon this one and I didn't go looking.
Sure.
So I don't know how we address that, Ms. Hammond.
Well, I think since he's not prepared, or he doesn't have the answer, I'm sure that Mr. Richardson and he could get that for us. Am I correct, Mr. Richardson?
Chair Hammond, since this is in draft form, any information that the board would like to have to add details or to extend any work, I would certainly encourage we could pass along. If you'll pass it to Ms. Strange or to me, we'll make sure that we pass that along for the proper review. And then the next report to the board, we can make sure those that have been involved with these projects are here to answer any questions that may be specific. I regret we did not have additional team members here this evening. Of course, this team is one that the board chose with the previous process of compliance with policy, but we certainly have made sure that we'll make note of this in the future, have all those team members in attendance that we need to have here to answer questions that the board may have.
Thank you.
Could I make a motion that we ask the auditors to review this particular contract and then also come back to the board with a list of all contracts over $50,000 that, and your nice green check mark on them? Can we do that, Ms. Hammond?
We can.
Because it does say
certainly-
action is necessary.
You have the right to make a motion.
Okay.
Do you mind repeating it?
I
wasn't sure
move
Aaron
that
got
we
it.
ask Burkett and Burkett to review a contract of concern as far as meeting requirements and present their findings on that, as well as a list of all contracts over $50,000 during the period that, and whether or not they met the procurement code requirements for approval.
Is there a second? Ms. Gardner, second. Does anybody need it reread? Mr. White?
What is the contract you found, and how did you find the
It was with
contract?
Dan Neal. I was curious, as you know, before I was on the board, I was curious about what the situation was there, and so I asked for a copy of the contract through FOIA, and I asked for the approval for that contract. In my uneducated, possibly, opinion, that contract required board approval, and it didn't have board approval.
I think I need, though, we had a second. I need to take a vote before we discuss, Mr. White. Is that okay?
No,
you
you can
discussed, then you
discuss.
vote. I mean, we're in discussion now.
Oh, the second. I'm sorry.
You got a second?
I did. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm corrected.
Now, I guess my question is, part of the question is this a contract that, I don't know the answer, where it fits in their categories of approvals, but let's make sure that there's not something under, I know some of the personal service contracts, procurements have different standards, but
Right,
I'm
and I
not,
would trust their judgment on whether or not, I'm just asking them because I don't believe that this was done correctly, for them to review it
Sure.
and determine whether or not it was.
Sure.
And while they're at it, just to make us comfortable and our public comfortable, share with us all the other contracts that were over $50,000 and whether or not they were approved correctly.
Okay. Any other questions before we vote? All right. All those in favor of Ms. Huddle's motion, raise your hand. And that is 7-0. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Milton. Is that the end of that? Is anybody else about? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Lovelace.
Yeah, following up on that, item number 9 on your letter says that we reviewed copies of all sole source and emergency procurements. I would like for you to determine if the contract that Ms. Huddle discussed was in fact a sole source contract. I don't see it on the list that I just looked at it that you provided. So I'd like to make the motion that we also have the auditor review the sole source and emergency procurements to see if this contract was in fact a sole source contract.
Second.
And I'd like it repeated for Ms. Strange's. Did you get it all? I try to be considerate of how fast you write, but you're pretty quick. Do we need to repeat it before we take a vote? We have a motion and we had a second. No one needs it repeated? Okay. Okay, Mr. Hogan.
If you could repeat it one more time.
I would like for item number 9 in the letter, page 2 of 2, discusses reviewed copies of all sole source and emergency procurements. I would like for the auditor to determine whether the contract in question was a sole source or emergency procurement. It's not listed in the documents that they have given us.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. That's 7-0. Okay, I think that's it. Be sure, since we are so socially distanced, I have to keep turning to see everybody. Dr. Milton, is that you're now ready for your second presentation and
Yes,
report?
Yes, ma'am, and if I may, I'd like to thank, there is a slide that covers the work of our finance office to include Mr. Richardson, Mr. Shealy, our Director of Finance, Ms. Frick, our Senior Accountant, Ms. London, of course, all of our school bookkeepers, all of those that have been involved with the expenditures in School District 5, our school and district administrators, and all staff who have worked with transactions. Their work definitely contributes to the success of this overall project, and thanks to the continued work of Burkett for their work and their report this evening. We look forward to an update. The next item, Ms. Hammond, and for you and the board, is focused upon our reentry discussions. This, of course, is continued. There's some slides here that you've seen many times before, so this is part 9. You've seen before our guiding principles. We have 5 of these, of how we're trying to focus our work and our decision-making and our recommendations now at this place of implementation to the board. You've seen before the slide of our considerations of different areas that we look at as a staff, trying to make sure that we make decisions that we believe are supportive of the statement across the bottom regarding safety. Priority number 5 of mine regarding the physical safe environment, the emotional safe environment, and the social safe environment. So the variety of data that we've used, operation mechanics that we use to make sure we're looking through different lenses, and of course the input of a variety of stakeholders. This evening for our phases of reentry, this slide has been adjusted to include the most recent reset for the return to hybrid. So you see that's been added to this graphic that you've seen many times before. We are currently, of course, working within the hybrid return of 7 through 12 because we adjusted that last week with the support of the board. We've been working with our athletics, which of course has been of great concern to our school administrators and of course to our board as well. So we have Mr. Presley here this evening to talk with you. Although there isn't a slide, we do want to make sure that we do focus upon athletics. So I'm going to ask Mr. Presley, our Director of Secondary Education, to come forward because the work that he and our athletic directors and principals worked on as soon as earlier today, which we did not have a chance to put this in written form, but we thought the board would find this of interest for discussion this evening. Director Presley.
Thank you, Dr. Melton. I wanted to provide a brief overview of athletics within our district. Since we've resumed athletics this past summer, we've been following the protocols set forth by the South Carolina High School League. Phasing in, they have phases 1, 1.5, 2, and 3, and we implement that across all of our athletic programs. Our athletic directors, assistant athletic directors, as well as coaches have been trained as to what the expectations are and what their responsibilities are. Communication between athletic directors and principals and myself, we meet on a regular basis. Sometimes we may have a call meeting. In the past 2 weeks, we've probably met about 4 times because we're consistently and constantly reviewing the numbers and the impact that they have on our athletic programs. Currently, we're closing out our fall sports season. That will end with the state championship on cheerleading this upcoming weekend, and we are in the midst of our winter season. At this time, we will have winter sports for all levels for the remainder of the week. We will pause sub-varsity during the winter break. That is because they're indoors. We don't want to have a number of teams coming through the gyms and to make certain that any spread is minimized. All principals and ADs have agreed to this. We do have some of our spring sports that can condition because it's outdoors and they can socially distance. Currently, district-wide, just as an overview, we do have 7 teams, 1 pod, and 1 active quarantine case. What that means is we have 7 athletic teams that cannot compete at this time because they are quarantined. A pod would be a group of athletes or a coach that is a smaller number of the team because they will split out and work with head coaches and assistant coaches. So we do have a pod that is quarantined. All of those teams will begin to come off on the 21st of December, and the last team will come off on the 25th of December. And currently, since we started at the start of the athletic season during the summer, we've had 37 positive cases, and we've had 439 close contacts. And that concludes my summary.
Mr. Pressley, I'm sure we will revisit athletics after the completion of this presentation, so he will be prepared to come back to the microphone. Mr. Pressley, of course, has worked very closely with our athletic directors, our assistant athletic directors, and all of our high school principals to this place of operations since the spring and throughout the summer to get to this place that we are currently in our athletic calendar. So moving on, looking towards January. Last time the board met, there were questions from the board regarding what might it look like in January, when would we be prepared to make some decisions. And of course, I shared at that time, it's very difficult to predict what may happen in the future. So as we're looking towards reentry, we're trying to make sure that we're positioning for these different themes that I have shared for several presentations now of our operations, what kind of data we're going to have. Of course, with any closure, it's very difficult to predict what data may be, but of course you have a variety of factors that offer some predictions across the country and of course here in our state as well. So looking ahead to January, this is where we are poised to be at this point with our recommendations. I'll pause for a moment to make sure the audience has had a chance to scan this. The board, of course, had an update this afternoon or midday today with this particular slide. So due to the closure for the winter holidays, we're looking ahead at what January the 4th and Tuesday, January the 5th may look like. Notice we've included adult education because we want to make sure that as a system of School District 5, we're looking at all of our students, whether they're pre-K all the way up to our adult education program. So it is our recommendation to work with distance learning on Monday and Tuesday. That would give our staff the opportunity to collect information. During our closure, I would like to ask all of our families to make sure that they're engaged with reporting information to us. Our staff may not be as responsive. I hope they're not as responsive as they would be if we were operational on a typical day. But we know that if we wait until January the 4th to hear from families the health situations of our students, it'll be very difficult for us to operate successfully and effectively on January the 4th on that Monday. So it's our recommendation that we use distance learning for Monday and Tuesday. Of course, Wednesday the 6th was already a distance learning day as it has been for School District 5. And then we'll look ahead to see what might Thursday and Friday look like depending on the information and the numbers that we have being reported throughout our closure, but also looking ahead at Monday and Tuesday. If I may, I would like to make sure that I pause for our community and our families. We encourage you to continue that social distancing. We encourage you to continue to wash hands. We've heard so many stories of how social situations are leading to rapid exposure and infection rates spreading. So during this holiday season that's going to look like none ever before, how might you make sure that you're protecting the well-being and the physical health of our students, our community, and our staff to make sure that we're watching our children and making sure they're behaving in the most responsible and protected way that's of your comfort? Board action last time, we of course were looking at a dashboard, and Ms. Goggins and her team led the coordination of all departments of School District 5 to bring together a wealth of information. Ms. Goggins is at the podium this evening to talk us through these next few slides. Ms. Goggins.
Thank you, Dr. Melton. School District 5 launched its COVID-19 dashboard on Friday, December 11th. The dashboard was created per motion approved by the school board on November 30th, and that wording of the motion is in the slide you have here. So per the motion, the dashboard features active COVID-19 cases of students, active COVID-19 cases of staff, quarantine number of students, quarantine number of staff, data by school, weekly updates, and separate recordings of 5 teachers and students. We would like to note that even before the implementation of our dashboard, the district administration already had researched the platforms and tools of other districts, talking with our counterparts about the best practices, as well as lessons learned and some of the challenges. The platform we're currently using is a Google platform, and like any other online platform, there are some limitations and a slight learning curve. But we believe we were able to create a look and design we felt, number one, captured the motion, And then number 2 is easy to understand and manipulate and maneuver by members of the public. So the actual design and setup was the first part, and now we'll talk a little bit more about the extensive parts of both creating and maintaining the dashboard for our district. While actually inputting the data and ensuring its position on the website is one task, the data collection and verification is another task, and one that's shared by multiple departments, our school nurses, our school principals, or their designees. To give you a sense of what that includes, we have detailed some of the steps here. So data is collected on Wednesday to Tuesday by our school nurses. Currently, our nurses are collecting data daily throughout the day and beyond. This change now means that they will have to set a deadline of Tuesday to report their data to our supervisor of nursing and health services. Once that occurs, a district official with the nursing and health services office will send that data to each school, the principals or their designee separately to verify that information. It is then verified on the district level once the principal checks off on it to again check the accuracy of the data and ensure data integrity. That occurs by Thursday. And then finally, the information is posted on our platform on Friday. We feel that this multi-layered approach ensures that the data is accurate as possible and mitigates any discrepancies in our data from the district. So here's a graphic of the layout of the dashboard. This, of course, is how we presented it to the board in their board packet before our dashboard went active on Friday, and it doesn't show the actual data. When you view our current dashboard, you will see summaries that define how the 5 virtual program is represented in the dashboard. You'll see the dates of the data represented in the dashboard, and there's also a disclaimer that the data may differ from SED hex data. The new dashboard can be found on our district website. We have a tab prominently displayed on the district home screen at the top. We shared the information on social media. We shared information with our staff and families, and we also shared it with the media via a press release. Finally, we've created an easy-to-remember link for viewing the dashboard, and that link is lexrich5.org/COVID-19 dashboard. And at this time, I will turn it back over to Dr. Melton.
Ms. Goggins, thank you so much. So, Ms. Hammond, looking ahead, obviously that's been a couple of new components of this report this evening to include the dashboard and also an update with athletics. So I'll pause for any questions that the board may have.
Thank you.
Ms. Hammond, I have
Yes.
a point of order.
Yes.
Since this requires a vote, should this not be moved to the action agenda after public participation?
Where's my Robert's Rules aficionado? You may be right. Do you know, Mr. White?
No, I don't, but you got on the agenda, action is necessary. I think we normally
it would be there.
have the
That's-
ability to vote in the superintendent's report.
Yeah.
We've done in the past.
Why not do it after public participation if we have the flexibility to do so? I think there's a lot of people here tonight that want to be heard on this before we vote on it.
Well, I think to change a item, I think I know you can make a motion.
Well, I move that we move the vote/motion and discussion on this item to the action agenda.
So where we've got, see, number 13 says action is necessary, but you want, that is coming after public participation, though.
Correct. If we discuss it now, though, it will be before public participation. So,
Oh, you want to wait for the discussion, too?
yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry. I was just thinking the vote.
I'm asking that we move the
Okay.
vote, which is required,
Yes.
and the discussion to the action agenda, let's say after item number 13.
Well, the only thing, and you're saying not even discuss it now. You want
I'm
to hear
saying
public
move the discussion,
Okay.
because it requires a vote. So with a
I
vote,
understand.
you have to have a motion and a second before you have discussion anyway. So
Right,
I'm
right.
moving that we move the vote and discussion for this item to the action agenda.
All right, well, we only have the approval of minutes from the 2 special call meetings and the regular meeting, and then it will be public participation. So it's not really, I mean, we'll take the vote because I think we have to since it's on there. Am I right? Yes. Is there a second to Ms. Huddle's? Ms. Gardner seconds, and we'll vote on that. How many would like to wait and have the discussion after we've heard what the public is saying?
Point of order, shouldn't we have a discussion about this
Yes?
before we vote on the?
Yes, we can.
Before we vote?
We can. Discussion on Ms. Huddle's amendment, a motion, and it has passed with we had a second, so before we would vote on it, you will say whatever you need to about it.
All right, well, I think that we have had, in the past board meetings that I've attended, I know that this is the second official board meeting, but I have seen where it's always said on the superintendent's report, action as needed. I absolutely understand the public participation aspect of this, but I think that I think it may impact some of the comments that are made to us if the discussion is had prior to public participation. I could be wrong on that, but
I guess my point on it is that we have to vote. It's a vote. So we have to have a motion for a vote and a second and then discussion.
right.
And that means we would be voting on this before we hear from the public. So I don't understand what harm it does to move this on the agenda to hear from the public that is here to be heard.
Right, I agree. I also believe that we have been hearing from the public in the last several days. And I'm just stating my opinion. I believe that it's in the proper place.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on it before I call for a vote? All right, all those in favor of Ms. Huddle's motion? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 4-3. So we do have questions, so we'll hold those. Okay. Then I will go. Did you have any other presentations of your reentry plan?
No, ma'am, that will conclude that until we revisit that discussion for action
Okay,
later.
all right.